welcome to the Omnivorous Bookworm. My name is Lauren, and today I wanted to do the mid-year book Freakout tag. I know that this is very popular. It's been going on for years and years, so that'll be fun to do it. I will paste all the tag questions down below, as well as the original tag video, if I can find it, and we will go from there. Okay, so there's 13 questions. The first question is, best book you've read so far in 2021. So that is Opium and Absinthe by Lydia. I did a review for this book actually. I will link that down below as well. I think it was like the second video I did on my channel. So it wasn't that long ago because I'm a very new channel. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. But I really enjoyed this book. It's a historical mystery, kind of literary. It's very interesting. It was the only book that I've ever read that really gets into the head of somebody who is addicted in a way that is honest and kind, like understanding, empathetic, I should say. And I really, really enjoyed it. But it avoided the problem of just being in the head and not having an interesting plot. And it has a very fast-paced sort of mystery plot. I'm not sure if the mystery worked quite as well, but because the book was so good in every other way, it has to be my favorite. At least, yeah, I think so. Number 2, best sequel you've read so far in 2021. So as far as sequel, I'm not sure if they mean like a sequel like as a continuation or a sequel as in like the same world but standalone books. So I picked two, so I picked one from both of these categories. I haven't read a lot of sequels as far as a continuation this year, but the best one I would have to say is Parable of the Talents by Octavia Butler. I did a review for this too. Which I will link down below. And the second one that I don't have a review for is Oven Baked Secrets by Tyora Moody. It's Eugeena Patterson #2. But it's a standalone, and they are cozy mysteries. And they're cozy because there's not any blood or gore or anything graphic on the page, but they do deal with a little bit more serious subjects. They're not just completely lighthearted, which I tend to enjoy more in a cozy mystery. And in this particular mystery, it focuses on an older African-American woman in the South who's a retired school teacher, and her family and her solving mysteries, and she's also a widow. So there's all these different components that are very well done, and I have only read the first two in the series. I'm going to be reading the third one, but they are both really, really, really good. Yeah, I gave them both 5 stars. They're really good. Alright, number 3, new release you haven't read yet, but want to. I think Flamefall by Rosaria Munda. So this is the second in the Fireborn. I think it's going to be a trilogy eventually, but right now there's only 2 books out. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed Fireborn. It's like a YA fantasy, but it's based on like the Aeneid and some of Plato's Republic and how the world is built, and I just found it very interesting. I enjoyed the complexity of the decisions that the main characters have to make. It was just very well done. I really enjoyed that. So I want to read Flamefall, but I haven't. Alright, number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I had a really hard time with this one because I don't read a lot of new releases, because there's so many older things that I want to read that I don't want to spend my book budget on on just new releases. So this one is kind of a cheat because I think it's available right now in hardcover, and I think it was also released in India in January, but there's no way that I would ever order a hardcover to be shipped to me because I live in Mexico and I don't read I usually read ebooks anyway. So for me, it hasn't come out yet in my world. And so this book is The Last Queen by Chitra, Banerjee, Divarakuni. I haven't read her for a while, but I've read a lot of her books. I've read Palace of Illusion, Mistress of Spices. What else have I read? Sister of My Heart, Oleander Girl. Yeah, I've read a lot of her books, and I really enjoy her. Sometimes she'll write just straight contemporary. Sometimes she'll write sort of historical. Usually when she writes historical, she'll put in some magical elements, sort of like magical realism. And sometimes she'll write more just fantasy, or I don't know what you would call Palace of Illusions. It's like a retelling of like ancient Indian religious texts. So I really enjoy her. She's really, really a great writer, and I would like to read that book whenever it comes to me. Number 5, biggest disappointment. So I haven't talked about this book yet. I'm going to do it on my end of the month wrap up. But it was Criers War by Nina Varela. I didn't have a lot of expectations going in, but it was, as I read it, I thought it was going to be really good. It's fantasy with it has like automatons, but they're kind of like organic machines, so you don't usually see that as much in fantasy. That's more of like a sci-fi thing. So I was very interested in that. I thought that was really cool. There is a lesbian romance, which is interesting, and that's why I originally picked it up for Pride Month, and I really liked it. But I mean, it wasn't horrible. I think I gave it 3 stars, maybe. Maybe I gave it 3.5. I can't remember. I have to look. But it was just, there was just so many problems. It stopped right in the middle at like it was like getting to the climax, or like almost to the climax. It was like, oh, no more book. I hate that. Is just, if you want to irritate me, that's like the worst thing to do. I hate that. And then the relationship between the two women, there was a huge power imbalance, and there was just a lot of things about it that were just, I did not enjoy. It was just very creepy how it went from like hate to love, but then one of them still wants to like actually kill the other, but then there's this huge power imbalance. It was just very bizarre, and not bizarre. It wasn't bizarre. It was like boring and like didn't work at the same time for me. For me. For me. All right, number 6, biggest surprise. This one would be A Man by Keiichiro Hirano, and it was translated by Eli K.P. William. This was a Japanese contemporary modern about a woman who's trying to figure out who her husband was, because it turns out he probably wasn't who she thought. And her lawyer, we also get into his life, the person who's trying to help her, and the story is just very interesting. It's nothing like like but it's very unique to Japanese society. There's no other way to tell this story. This story could not be set in any other country that I know of. It's very unique, and it gives a unique insight into Japanese culture and Japanese society in the past as well as today. And also the translation was really, really good. Obviously, I couldn't read the Japanese, but a lot of times, I know it's very difficult to translate Chinese or Japanese into English, and sometimes it will come across a little bit clunky when they do it, but it came very naturally, very well done, while you still get the flavor of the Japanese culture, and it doesn't feel, I don't know how to explain it. It doesn't feel exactly like, oh, this was written in English. You can tell that, obviously, it's in Japan, but I don't know how to explain it, but with the words. But anyway, that translation and that book, I was just expecting it to be maybe a little bit too literary, a little bit too boring, a little bit too like navel gazy in your head, but it definitely wasn't. There were a lot of interesting things that happened, and it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't so shocking, but it unfolded very naturally, and I thought it was very well done. I really like that one. Favorite new author, debut, or new to you? These are both authors that are new to me. I picked two. Christina C. Jones, she writes a lot of, I think she only writes romance. She writes black love. She's the two that I read by her, she incorporates a lot of more like not darker but more serious themes into her romances, which I really enjoy while still keeping the light tone of the romance. And then Lydia Kang. I read two books by her, Opium and Absinthe and Impossible Girl. They were both really good and I really enjoyed them. So I like her a lot. And Lydia Kang writes, the two that I read are historical with a mystery thrown in. And since she's a doctor, there's a lot of like medical things thrown in an interesting way, but she avoids it coming across as like too medically it's not a word too medicalized. It still feels like a normal person is talking when it's necessary, but she uses that knowledge that she has to make her stories more interesting. So I really like both of the books. I read two books by both of those authors and I enjoyed both of them a lot. Newest fictional crush? None. I don't really have any. Number 9, newest favorite character. I listed so many because I couldn't decide. Oh my gosh. I guess I really liked Lauren Olomina from the Octavia Butler books that I read this year, the Parable or the Earth Sea duology. And she shares my name, so I like that. I really enjoyed it. I just finished The Small House of Ellington by Anthony Trollope. I really liked Lilydale. I was pleasantly surprised. I was worried about that. I really liked Annie from Fireborn. And I really liked Lady Hardcastle and Flo. They're in the Lady Hardcastle. They're historical mystery, cozy mystery series. And I've read the first two in that series. But they're both standalones. And I just think they're really great characters. They're the best part of the book. Alright, books that made you cry. I have two. I have the first, Mrs. Rothschild by Sara Aharoni, and it was translated by Yardenne Greenspan. And The Culmination of Everything by Christina C. Jones. The Culmination of Everything is a romance that it was the first one I had read by Christina C. Jones, so I wasn't expecting it. Maybe now I would be a little bit more used to it. But the main character has a backstory that when it's revealed, I was so like, oh my gosh. You just like love them even more. With the first Mrs. Rothschild, it's about the Rothschild family that has a lot of money in the first one, and they are a Jewish family in Germany, in Frankfurt in the 1800s, and it's how this family sort of got their money. In the first Mrs. Rothschild, they're living in, they have to, at this time, all the Jewish people in Frankfurt have to live on this one street, and it's getting very crowded, and they are very isolated, especially the women. The men are allowed to leave to go to work, but they're not even allowed to go to a park. They're not allowed to experience any life, and you understand like how much prejudice was against them for so long. Obviously this changed eventually. I think I read about it, and there was like a really bad fire, and it was a really sad reason why this practice ended. And to my knowledge, but the book said it was Frankfurt. It wasn't like all over Germany, that they had to do this in every city. In some cities, Jewish people were more integrated into society, although I'm sure there were, still prejudices and all of that. But the first Mrs. Rothschild is almost her entire life written in diary form, and it was a well done diary form. Usually that's not done as well. And it's just her whole life and her living as this, even though she gets money later. It was just a really hard time to be alive in a hard place, especially as a woman, being a Jewish woman at this time and place, and just never being able to leave this street, or hardly ever. And it just breaks your heart. And then all these horrible things that happen in her life, and how many difficult things happen for her. I don't know. I read a lot of sad books, but that one stood out for me. I didn't read a lot of sad books. Number 11, books that made you happy. I picked the Homeswappers series by Adriana Alicio. These are also cozy mysteries. The author is from Italy, but she writes in English. And it's about these two older women who are retired school teachers. I think I like retired school teachers. And they live in Italy. They're Italian. I think one was an English teacher and the other one was French or math. I can't remember. But there are these two friends. They have very different personalities, and it's difficult for them to live on their retirement pension as teachers, and so they're doing these little home swap things. So they have a nice house in, one of them does, and they move in together, a nice house in the south of Italy, and then they'll swap their house with somebody else, and they'll drive to another city and stay in that person's house. And of course, every time they go somewhere, there's a murder and they have to solve it. And they get a little basset hound who's very cute. And they go to different cities in in Europe, and they go to different types of cities. Like there's one in Mecklenburg, Germany. There's one in, oh, I forget the other. There's another city in Germany, but it's not a very common one. There's one in Arrow Island in Norway. There's one in, I think the most big city they have is, there's one in Prague, but I haven't read that one yet. And then they have a prequel that's set in their little town in Italy. I don't even know if it's a real town, but it's a little town. So I really like it. The writing is really well done. The characters are funny. I enjoy the different plays of languages because obviously they're traveling. So when they're in Germany, I think one of them speaks German pretty well and the other one just speaks it a little bit. And so how they have to navigate learning the languages or communicating in different languages and solving these murders, and then like traveling around all these different places, and they're very funny. They just make me happy. They're just one of those books that you just read it and it's like, it doesn't have to be anything extraordinary, amazing. It doesn't have to change your life. It's just like, oh, that was really fun. That was really cute. I like that. All right, most beautiful book you've bought so far this year. So I usually read ebooks, so I'm not as into the cover, but I would say as far as like the descriptions within the book and the pictures that the book draws will be Empire of Sand by Tasha Suri, and it's the #1 in the Ampa books. The pictures that she paints are just beautiful. The way that she describes everything, this land of sand, I really I really enjoyed it. All right, last one. 13. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? Like, I will never read everything that I set for myself to read, but somewhat realistically, I want to finish all my books for the Jane Austen readathon. I have my TBR for that. I can link that below. I'm really excited about that for next month. I only have one more in the Barsetshire series, so I want to finish that book. I would also like to read the Pallister series, both the Barsetshire and the Pallister by Anthony Trollope. I don't know if I'll be able to finish the Pallister series. I could, but I don't know if I will prioritize that over other things, if that makes sense. Realm of Ash by Tasha Suri, which is the next one in the Ampa series. And I want to finish all the Miss Marple books. I've read, I think, 6 of the Miss Marple ones, so I can do that too. I don't know if I will do that. I don't know if I will prioritize that over other things, or if I'll finish the Miss Marple books over other Agatha Christie books. I haven't decided yet, because I usually just read what I'm in the mood for, and I try to read something different. So if I read one classic, I'll try to read a mystery, or I'll try to read a romance. Or if I read a romance, then I try to read a general fiction to like mix it up so I don't get bored and I don't get stuck in a rut and get in a slump. So sometimes it can be difficult when you have like big chunks of the same kind of book, because yeah, I could read all of those books, but I don't know if I want to read like 6 Anthony Trollope books in a row. There's other classics that I want to read, and the same with the Miss Marples. There's other books like that I want to read too. So I would have to prioritize those over those books, or I would just have to read a lot. So we'll see if I'm able to do that. Alright, so thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Like I said, I got a couple subscribers. I was so excited. So thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.